They were once again hopeful that Obama would, this Medicare, not Medicare, but the health care thing that he was pushing, that white Democrats had him pushing. And a lot of people didn't understand that there are a lot of white people that are that pay for their insurance and are not covered by certain things. And this health care initiative was a push to cover more white people. And many black people are covered either under Medicare or under Medicaid or under, some kind of state program or children under peace care or whatever the situation. You have a bunch of working white people that are required to pay, for their insurance because they're working people. And you have a lot of blacks too, but this was a push to include those whites that were losing their jobs and whatnot, and made it so that more whites could be covered under health care plans without the high cost. At least that's what was pushed. But what happened to blacks is that they bought into it as well and said, okay, well, I paid for my, insurance as well, so let me go ahead and vote for this health care thing because Obama said it's the right thing to do. And what they saw was more white people coming on to programs and more black people getting pushed off of them. They saw the opposite of what they thought was going to happen. They saw not an increase in service, but they saw a decrease in health care services. They saw an increase in health care costs, not a decrease. And so now, whereas they were trying to figure out, how much groceries to buy as opposed to, getting their medication, now their medication went up and they were having to decide whether or not to keep the lights on or pay their medication. So this healthcare situation was clearly not thought through very well. It was something that was pushed as an agenda for, and this is not something that has to be made clear. This is not Obama's health care initiative. This is not Obama's health care law. This is not Obama's, but contrary to what the Republicans keep pushing and keep saying. This is, and contrary to what the Democrats keep saying, this is not Obama's package. This is white Democrats' package that Obama was the spokesperson for. When you talk about the $800 billion package when he first came in, which Republicans are constantly talking about, raise the deficit and all this good stuff. This was not Obama's stimulus plan. He has all these white people around him, these white Democrats around him, and they tell him this is what we should do in order to fix this. And so, of course, he looks at it and he tries to understand, where they're going with this. But there is a huge frustration that you see. You actually get to see the frustration on this black president, this Negro president, because he knows, from the beginning, I'm sure he knew, but he knows without a doubt now that he was used by white Democrats in order to push a white Democratic agenda. So it's the equivalent of a escaped Negro from the plantation escaping to the north and finding that the whites in the north want mental control over him, whereas the whites in the South, the Republican whites, want physical control over him as a black man. So it was disappointing for a lot of seniors. They have expressed how, their savings were wiped out with this whole Wall Street corruption thing. And this was allowed by presidents. And as you can see, the next package that came out, the financial reform, all this so-called reform is actually digging a hole basically to China. Black senior citizens are actually seeing something that they've seen before. A lot of them are old enough to have to know what happened in 1933, and they're coming up. These are senior citizens that know what the president did back then that made the situation either better or worse. So when they see these mistakes being made, they feel helpless because they don't really put a lot of value in voting. They just do it because, a lot of people died for them to be able to do it. But many senior citizens have almost, it appears, just given up on voting, to change that real change that Obama talked about. They've given up on the grandchildren that they see with the pants hanging down and the crazy music and whatnot. But as black organizations, we have an opportunity to actually restore that pride. One, we have to get those seniors to start telling that history. There are a lot of children who need it, whether you used to tell it to them, whether they wanted to hear it or not, and we have to go back to that. Seniors need to feel comfortable telling that history. It is needed. The other thing is that black organizations need to work on the other situations that we spoke of, the black children, black women, black men, black communities, so that seniors can once again feel comfortable coming out of their homes, interacting with children, and, being back in as the leaders of the black community, the elders of the black community. And, as organizations, even looking at some of the things that occur in organizations, they're starting to listen more to younger people who don't have a lot of experience or knowledge, instead of listening to the older people in the organizations that have been through this stuff. So we're going to talk more about senior citizens. Tomorrow we're going to talk about business. Well, we should be able to get a business show in today. So we're going to talk about restoring honor and pride back to black businesses and getting black seniors to start back up those family businesses, start back up those home businesses and whatnot, so they don't have to decide and try to scrape to make ends meet. We're going to let seniors know what they can do to actually get some businesses started. So we're going to break some things down. Black businesses, blacks don't have a very fond liking to black businesses because of some of the things that go on. But we're going to talk about how we can correct that and actually, restore those black businesses to what we know they can be and what they used to be. And so we hope that you will be able to join us for the next segment, which we're going to try and do today. Until then, all power to the people.